Hello everyone, welcome back. One of my viewers asked a really good question in the comment section. He asked if any AR-15 upper will fit on any AR-15 lower, okay? And the key phrase that we're looking for is mil-spec, okay? Made to military standards. So any mil-spec 5.56 upper will fit on any mil-spec 5.56 lower, okay? In case you're new to AR-15s, basically these two come apart like that. That pin comes out over there. So there's an upper, and this is the upper, that's the lower. Okay. So basically, I can take this upper off. I can throw it on that AR-15 over there because they're both mil-spec 5.56 uppers. Okay. So it doesn't matter what the barrel length. Doesn't matter what kind of a stock it has, what kind of a grip it has here, what kind of a scope you have on it. None of that matters. If it's a mil-spec 5.56 upper, it'll fit on any mil-spec 5.56 lower. Now, you can also get some different calibers that will fit on your mil-spec 5.56 lower. So, for example, a 300 blackout, okay. If you got a 300 blackout upper, okay, which is basically kind of like an AK-47 round, not exactly, but kind of, it's a 30 caliber bullet. A 300 blackout upper will fit on your standard 5.56 lower. Okay, they were designed to do that. I believe 454 SOCOM. If you have a 454 SOCOM upper, that will also fit on your 5.56 lower. Now, word of caution, especially with the 300 blackout, I don't own a 300 blackout. The reason is because with the 300 blackouts, now you're shooting a 30 caliber bullet, and it can get really easy to confuse your different uppers and lowers and calibers. So the last thing you ever want to do is accidentally send a 30 caliber bullet down a 22 caliber barrel, because that's what 5.56 is. Basically, it's a 22 caliber, 22% in diameter. So for that reason, I don't own a 300 blackout upper or any 300 ammunition. I just don't want to take a chance. Sometimes I'm just I'm just too busy. I'm moving too fast. I don't pay attention to some to organizational details like that. Likewise, if I'm ever training somebody on the 300 blackout, which I sometimes do, sometimes I'll go to places people are using 300 blackout. If I'm training somebody that has a 300 blackout AR, I'm not going to bring out my ARs. I keep everything separate. Okay, I just try to minimize the chance of an error. Likewise, if I do bring out my one of my 5.56 ARs, I make sure that there's no 300 blackout on the table. Okay, because again, if you try to send 30 caliber bullet down a 22 caliber barrel, it's going to blow up your gun. But that's an example of a completely different caliber. Okay. Different caliber upper that will fit on your 5.56 lower. Now, when you get into, let's say, AR-10s, which is basically shooting a 308, now that's also a 30 caliber bullet, right? It's just got a lot more gunpowder behind it. So with the AR-10 that shoots the 308, that's not mil-spec. That's a completely different lower. So you need an AR-10 upper to go on an AR-10 lower. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to AR-10s, I don't believe that they were ever widely used by the military. So, as far as I know, and I don't know everything, but as far as I know, there is no AR-10 mil-spec. Okay. Now, from what I hear, most AR-10 uppers will fit on AR-10 lowers. But you could have some exceptions out there. Okay, now that can even be the case with AR-15s, because sometimes you can get one that's slightly out of spec, but then it's out of spec. But with AR-10s, I don't think that there's such a thing as mil-spec. So there's a higher chance in that case that you may get an AR-10 upper that may not fit on your AR-10 lower. Okay, the same thing goes with 9mm, AR-9s, right? They're not really AR-9s. That's what people refer to them. But if you've got a 9mm rifle, okay, that kind of looks like an AR-15, right? Like for example, the Palmetto PX9 that I have, and a lot of people will just casually refer to it as an AR-9. Now again, you got different upper, different lower. That's not going to fit on your AR-15. Now there is a lot of cross compatibility. Sometimes the uppers from some companies will fit on the lowers of other companies, but that's not always the case. Because again, there's no mil spec there. There's no standard. With the AR-15s, because the military was using them for such a long period of time, it was kind of standardized, and then all these companies that started developing the AR-15s were developing them to military standards. Now there were some guns along the way, like for example, there were some ARs that would only shoot 223, right? On the barrel, it wouldn't say 5.56 223 or 5.56. It would just say 223. So that barrel wouldn't be mil spec. Even though it could shoot the 5.56 caliber, it's usually not recommended. But that's an example of you can have an AR-15 that's not 100% mil spec. Okay, so mil spec means that it's made to a specific standard. Now, interestingly enough, the original AR-15s that Stoner designed were not mil spec either, okay, because they did go through some changes early on. Or the original ARs, from what I recall, it did not have a forward assist, did not have the dust cover over here. Okay, there was probably some other differences on it that I'm probably not even aware of. But the original AR-15s that Stoner designed are not mil spec by what we understand as mil spec today. So that's your key phrase. When you're trying to consider, will these two parts fit together on an AR? Basically you want to come back and say, okay, are these things mil spec? Because to give you an example, with the buffer tubes, okay, this is a mil spec buffer tube. Now there's also another type of buffer tube out there that's called what they call commercial. It's slightly different in size. It'll still, I believe, it'll still fit on your standard AR-15. Because I believe the threading over here is the same, but the stock that would slide over the buffer tube is of a different size, and commercial stocks will not fit on mil spec buffer tubes, and vice versa. Or if they do, there'll be a lot of wobble. There'll be a lot of play. But basically, that's another example where you can have something that's out of spec. That might still work on it, but it's out of spec, and then once you're out of spec, as you start getting more and more pieces that are out of spec, there's a greater and greater chance that you're gonna end up with something that doesn't work, which is why I always like to go back to mil spec. Anytime I'm buying an AR-15, I want to know that every part of the gun is mil spec, or as close to mil spec as possible. Because the thing to understand is, unless your AR-15 has a 3-round burst on it, that's not 100% mil spec either. That's like 99% mil spec. So just be aware of that, because sometimes you'll have people saying, my gun's 100% mil spec. No, unless it's got that 3-round burst, it's not necessarily mil spec. So anyway, something for you guys to think about. I thought it was a very interesting question. And by all means, if you guys have any questions, please post them in the comment section. Hey, I may not know the answer to everything either. There's other guys in the comment section that might know things that I don't know. And what I'll do is, when I read it, if it's something that I don't know, I'll certainly research it further. But hey, it's a community. We're all learning from each other. So if you're not a member of the channel, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys soon.